Greetings, my name is Dr. Hassim Ayali Kambui. I am an associate professor at the Florida Agricultural and Mechanical University in the College of Education within the Department of Educational Leadership and Counseling. Welcome back. I would like to speak with you about another book of mine entitled Africentric Pan African Ptahraset, The Power of God and Religion. Before I continue, as always, I am thankful for the support and that the information you have found in any of my other works has enhanced your understanding of the world and your ability to make decisions in your life. For further consideration in how we make decisions in our lives, we can identify with the terms associated with the title of my book. Again, the title of the book is Africentric Pan African Ptahraset, The Power of God and Religion. Let us look at the two terms of Africentric Pan African and Ptahraset. Let me start off by saying that I am an Africentric Pan Africanist. This means that my ways of life are centered through a perception of me being an African, not an imitation white man, an imitation Indian, or an imitation Asian. I am the subject of my own existence and not the minority object of another racist definition. I am not a victim I'm not a victim of white supremacy. I am a survivor and a thriver. The self-definition applies regardless of my location. So whether it be in Florida, where I currently am residing, New York, Pennsylvania, North Carolina, California, Texas, Oklahoma, Minnesota, Chicago, etc., anywhere in the Americas overall, or the Caribbean, Europe, the African continent, or elsewhere. Therefore, regardless of my location, all my concerns are based upon the culture and environments of the African continent. Admittedly, as an African in the Yepete or dispersion, this further relates to my intelligence, my ability to apply knowledge to deal with new or trying situations, or to manipulate my environment based upon the culture and environments of the African continent. Ptahraset comprises of three Kemetic words, Ptah, Ra, and Aset. Ptah is the word of creation or God. Ra is one of the major names that our African ancestors named the creator God. Aset is another one of those major names that our African ancestors named the female creator goddess. The combined sacred words represent a collective term for all African traditional religions today, such as for the African Ptahraset religious denominations of Orisha Ifa, Abusum, Voodoo, and a widely recognizable ancient African Ptahraset religious denomination of Ma'at. The thinking is similar to Western theological tradition and the distinct white religion of Christianity. This is where you have Christianity in numerous denominations of Christianity, such as Catholicism and Protestantism, as well as other similar denominations. For example, Seventh-day Adventist, Baptist, Methodist. These all represent a list of Christianity denominations. Now that those two terms are clear, Africentric Pan African and Ptahraset, we can bring those two words together. Africentric Pan African Ptahraset then relates to the study and practice of the African gods and our behaviors in service and worship to them. To that end, I have raised several questions within my book to the study and practice of the African gods and our behaviors in service and worship to them. One could ask, does it even matter who's God and religion? Would it matter who's God and religion to American Asian Indians, American Japanese, or American white people? Furthermore, does it matter to Black Christians, Black Muslims, or Black Jews or Hebrews? In that particular context, it should matter because only Black African people were enslaved, brainwashed, and had their God and religion taken away. Another question that I raise is what does God and religion have to do with African American economics, wealth, and education? Given those questions, used to uncover the answers is the scientific method, so to speak, of the power elements of religion, otherwise referred to as the 10 power blocks. And that corresponds to the other part of the title of the book, The Power of God and Religion. Dr. Kambui, so what do you mean when you say power elements of religion? First, power is the capacity to do something with the ability and strength to control and influence other people in their actions whenever you want. Second, the elements contribute to a group of people's organizational growth, plan, or system. For example, in cases where races of people have nuclear bombs, they have the same number of these blocks. There are 10 power blocks. Each block can be likened to a container. All right. So when we think about that, there is first the block of race. Now, I know that some people, again, do not believe in race within the biological sense. However, for the context of this discussion and to operationalize the term, race here refers to a group of people who are akin to common ancestry and have associated physical features connected to a distinct physical location. So that's the first block. That's race. The next block is agriculture. This block is very important because surely without the agriculture, the race will die or perish. And agriculture refers to the harvesting and the production of the land for food purposes of the race. Next, you then have the philosophy block. The philosophy block is the common beliefs of a race as they experience the nature of things and raise questions about their experiences and the events around them. This then leads to the next block, which is the fourth block relating to ideology or race actions dictated by their philosophy. That then produces a theology. What is the observation and assessment understanding of human relationships to gods and religious doctrine? That then produces a culture, thoughts and behaviors exposed by the race in symbols or integrated patterns transmitted and can be interpreted. Then there's ethnic groups. Ethnic groups are members of a collective race, but they are subdivided into smaller groups who create their own approaches significant to the collective race thoughts and behaviors. So, for example, you have African people, however, on the continent, but there's many different groups of them, ethnic groups in terms of them, from the north, south, east, and west. So that is what an ethnic group relates to. It's just a subdivision of the larger race. Rituals, that relates to education. So the particular educational practices of a race carried on from one generation to the next. Then next you have weapons of war and communication systems. This, of course, advances national defense to protect the race from others. And the last block, or the 10th block, is environmental security. So it's the race's awareness of the signs from the environment, and for them, or the group of people, the race, to secure methods for the race's environmental protection. Again, all races of people that have nuclear bombs have the same number of power blocks. All right. In regards to African Americans, we were enslaved. Now, in another book, Reparations, the Africentric Pan African Approach, I speak about that. In that book, I spoke to the topic of material and psychological reparations, and more specifically to the Africentric Pan African approach to undo the lingering consequences of 470 years of slavery, post-traumatic slave disorder, or slavery PTSD, that destroyed our African personality and self-confidence. See, the white slave masters brainwashed us to the extent that we no longer know that we ever had any of those 10 power blocks that I mentioned. Therefore, my book outlines problem-solving techniques as it relates to reparations and those 10 building blocks of power to create a health behavioral education model. Now, in saying that, we have to be very careful. What I mean by this is that the interpretation that so much of African American behavior has been corrupted by enslavement runs the risk of underplaying the current social conditions and our ability to solve our own problems related to the current social conditions, for example, of Christian and Islamic religion, lack of Africentric culture, persistent poverty, that are more likely, proximal causes of our dysfunctional behavior, and as well as completely ignoring the strengths that might come from the historical adaptations or contemporary coping given those particular moments in time. Rightfully so, as a more meaningful adaptation to organize ourselves is Africentric Pan African Ptahraset.